Well, first, again, my name is Dan Pippin. I am very fortunate to be the head coach of the national team of Hungary. Um, what I was saying earlier is that if anyone, I have a bunch of friends through coaching that if you all want to meet with, and he's with the XFL now, he's going to be a defensive coordinator of a New York team. I've got a friend that's a USFL coach, a bunch of college coaches at different universities in the States that I thought it would be a great way for all of us to learn, not just y'all, but for me. If you want to have times that we all meet with them and more about just techniques and drills more than schemes, but that, they would do whatever we asked them to do. They're all really good guys. One guy in college is my son. He coaches linebackers at the Division III school in Boston, outside of Boston. So he kind of has to do it because he's my son, but he's more than happy to do it. But with football and me, uh, most ideas that I've stolen from other coaches. Um, so many things, if I can figure out how to do the PowerPoint, which I have, I'll show a lot of the things I talk about come from other people that I've just met throughout the years and not necessarily became friends with, but I would go listen to them speak, which is the best way to learn. I've been a head coach for 30, I think 32 years now. I played college football in Indiana quite a few years ago and had a great time. I was captain of the team, which I think is more important than anything else. I'm married. I have three children. My youngest daughter is 24, and I have a grandchild. I'm pretty sure that my youngest daughter and granddaughter and oldest daughter will be coming to Budapest and to Hungary to visit my wife and I in the fall, and we look forward to that. One thing I want to make sure that I tell everybody, if there's ever a time, and I've got it on the PowerPoint, and I'll make sure I give it to my email to y'all, and if you got questions, please let me know, and I'll be happy to answer anything. I've got time. And also, when we have national team practice, please come to practice. I would love that. I think it's great if y'all would come. I would, I think it makes players practice harder when coaches, it's not just the same coaches there all the time. So I would love it. It's a great way to see new things. Um, if you were at national team practice and after we get done, if you've got a question, please ask. If you've got a better way to do it, please tell me, because I can tell you I know a lot about football. I don't know everything about football. And I think the best way to get better is to talk to people. And I try to do that as much as possible. So um, that's kind of it on my story. I've been a head coach now for 24 years, I believe. And where I'm was at in the United States, in the South, you have to be successful or you get fired from your job. And football has been my job for quite a while now. So I've been very, very fortunate to have very good players. I've had three make the NFL. One guy was a 10-year veteran. His name was Dakota Watson. Great person, but his big thing is he was not that good of he was an unbelievable football player, but in the NFL, he's not that as good. But he was in the NFL because he played on special teams for 10 years, and which is a pretty cool thing to do. So, again, if you ever have a question or you need anybody to talk to, please let me know. I'm going to get going on one of the things I talked with Adam, we've been texting back and forth, and one of the things, or the thing he said to talk about was building a team culture. And I want to see if if I can share my screen. I'm not, can y'all see that?
No.
Can you see my screen?
Sorry, no.
Not yet. Not yet.
All right. I've never, I'll be honest with you, I've never used Google Meet before. I've only used Zoom. So if someone can help me out on how to share my video, my screen, it would help me out.
The middle button you can use. You have 5 buttons on the bottom, and the middle is the sharing.
The middle one's sharing. Mine's got present now.
Yeah.
Is that it?
Yeah. This is it.
All right.
And you can share only one screen or just one piece of your screen.
Well, one of the things you do as a head coach is you can't get frustrated when things in the game go bad. At practice now, sometimes I do get frustrated, but in games I try not to, because one of the things I would talk to y'all about is that people follow your lead. If you're having a bad day or in a game, if you because I can tell you exactly the same thing. I'm sure that unless there's an official in this group, I'm sure it's the same thing in Hungary, it's the same thing as in Italy, the same thing in America. Officials, is there any officials in this group?
No.
Yes.
Yes? I love all officials.
Yes, I'm officiating too.
But people will say how officials will dictate a game, and on that, I always think that that's not our officiating is bad. And for me, I just tell even the people here, I tell the officials here, they're as good as the people in America. So, and they are. But I also tell them, it's my job, and I told our side judge that on Saturday night. This is my job, and it's her hobby. And I think that's something for, I think the officials need to remember that. I apologize. This is.
Richie, could you share your screen and show?
Yeah, it's a very good idea.
That would be outstanding.
The screen.
I apologize.
No worries. Okay, do you see my screen now, Coach?
I do.
Okay, so you find the button. Just a minute. You find the button here. Oh, in the middle. And this is the sharing.
Next to the CC or the.
Yeah, this is the sharing, and you can share. Of course, I can cancel the presentation now, but you will find here three. One is the full screen sharing. Second is one window sharing, and the third is if you use your browser, you can share just one slide of your browser.
Okay. Thank you.
Let's try it.
I'm embarrassed. I'm gonna try my entire screen. All right, can you all see me now? Still? Sure. Chrome wants to share contents. Good.
Yeah, it works now.
All right, here we go.
Yeah, we got you.
Yeah.
How about that?
We can see your browser now.
That's great.
Oh, and you have it presentation.
Fantastic.
Great.
All right. Can y'all see that?
Yep.
Yep.
All right. I would make it bigger, and I've done this a few times. I used to speak for Glazier, which
Yes.
is a company in America that you go out and speak about football. And one of the things I learned in Glazier is if you got stuff on the screen and it's almost right, then you just leave it like that, just in case. All right, but that's a picture of me with my team here. All right, the big thing for me with culture, in the culture, that's our team last year. And I had to put those, the white culture and then the what do you want your culture to look like. I had to put it over the guys because they all took their shirt off and they think it's funny because they're all fat. And but I think that's the biggest thing y'all got to ask yourself. And then your teams, your programs. You know, what do you want your culture to be? What do you want it to look like? How do you want to go about it? What, you know, that's the biggest things to me is I used to speak on this in America a lot because when my first job in South Carolina, where I did most of my head coaching, I took over a team that was 0-29, and it was a great challenge for me and for everybody. But we won our first game, and then we won 4 that year out of 11, and people thought it was the best thing ever. Well, fast forward to my last year at that school, and we won 7. And it was just the kids really believed in what we were trying to say. The people they really believed in what we were saying and doing. But I think that's the biggest thing that you all have to decide is what you want your team to be. What do you want your team to be in Hungary? I know we have meetings this week in Rome about what do we want our team to be going forward in Rome. And it's a little bit different because, you know, do they want to spend money to be able to compete with Milan, or do we want to stay the same and be middle of the road? And if that's what they want, that's what y'all want, or they don't want to spend money, y'all don't want to spend, you know, that's up to y'all. But that's got to be your decision. And then how you go about your culture, and you know, who makes that up, who decides that I think is the most important thing. All right. With culture, I think the role that everybody plays in who defines that with your team. And this is in our situation here with the Ducks. And I'm not quite sure how teams, I would think, in Hungary are set up probably the same way. I know the national team, I have the federation, the other coaches, and then also the players. But I would think, you know, if your team has a president or a board of directors, the same thing with companies are all built the same. In America, I speak with companies about how to, you know, building teams. But I think it has to be, you have to include everyone. And I think, and as we go on, you'll see the biggest thing for me is including the players in many of the decisions that have to be made. And then I think everybody has to know their role in that and how to establish the culture and how to maintain the culture. Once you get what you want, everybody has to know their role, and then everybody has to execute their role. And I think that's probably the most difficult thing as a coach to do. When I was in America, I was the head coach and the athletic director. I really didn't, my boss was the superintendent of schools, which is a big deal. And where I was at in the South, a football coach is I don't even know how to, it's a huge deal. So, and in football in America, everybody has an opinion because they see it on TV so much. And it doesn't change. Everybody in Italy has an opinion that cares anything about football. I'm sure it's the same thing in Hungary. Everybody thinks they can do what you're doing better than you until they have to do it. But the big thing I think about culture is you've got to get everybody pulling together. And then you've got to get, I would say try to establish what you want your culture to be. If you're the head coach, you know, what's the head coach wants? If you're the coordinator, work with the, you know, the head coach and the president, the GM on what they want that culture to be for the team. If you all have questions, please stop me at any time, and I'll be happy to answer. With culture now, things for me that are extremely important is I think you've got to be the example. If for our culture, for me, I want it to be player-centered and player-led, but I've got to be the example as the head coach. For the national team, it's the same way. I've got to be the example because I'm the guy that people are going to see. So I believe that you have to do the little things right. One of the things, and I had a meeting with the assistant coaches, and we still need assistant coaches, I think 2 more for the national team. But one of the things I met with the people that I've already gotten is we talked about little things. And a little thing to me, you see on the screen, it says green bottle in laundry. Well, the green bottle of me is this. We were at a place, and I don't know if y'all know about, there's a golf tournament in America called the Masters. It's huge. Well, my school, where I won the most, was a place called North Augusta. Well, we would walk down, and I wish y'all could see like Southern football in the United States. It's the best thing. We'd walk down this hill, down these stairs. There was trash always, and I told it. And so one day I left this, and I'd pick it up. So one day I left this green bottle on top of the stairs just to see if people would pick it up and put it away, and nobody did. And everybody got in trouble, even the assistant coaches. You know, that was a meeting we had that night. Was that, you know, we care. I want everybody to care about little things. Everybody puts stuff away. You know, the pads, the footballs. I'm sure it's the same thing for y'all, where money is something that we don't have. So everything, the leather footballs that I bring from home, yeah, I make sure they get picked up. You know, things shouldn't be left out. And if you can do little things right, like put trash away after games here, there's stuff, or there used to be, there would be trash on the sideline because people wouldn't put their tape in the trash can or the bottles in the recycle. And that was something that I just started to do because I just think you've got to do little things right. The laundry is in America. We would do the players' laundries, you know, like their shorts and all that kind of stuff, pants, you know, everything. Well, the guy was talking to another person, and he just wouldn't do the laundry. And he didn't understand that he's responsible as the head coach. I believe you're responsible for anything that happens. You know, not obviously the president and GM tell me kind of what they want, what their vision is. But then from then on, it's my baby. I take charge. So I'm responsible for everything. If the laundry ain't getting done, that's on me. If, you know, the trash ain't getting done, that's on me. If something's not happening, that's, as coaches, I believe we have to be the example. We have to take it. It's our, take the initiative, make it your, everybody's got to see that. And when my guys saw me putting the trash away, it wasn't an issue anymore. They started putting trash away too. When I carry bags to put away after practice. Well, now my players all carry the bags. Everything gets put away. Everything gets done. And because they understand that little things matter. It's like tackling. I'm a big fan of the University of Michigan. I heard at the time their head coach was Lloyd Carr, and he spoke about tackling. And he said, if you want to be a great tackling team, well, you got to practice tackling. Now, we don't, and times have changed since I played football, even since I started coaching football. And that tackling now, we practice tackling every single day, probably for 15 minutes, 20 minutes probably, on different drills. But we don't live tackle ever. We tackle on bags. We've got to be aware that people will get hurt when they tackle. So we tackle everything you can. I'm a big Seattle Seahawks near foot, near hip, head across, the same things all the time. Again, it's just important. And then I stress to our team, we're the best tackling team in Europe. And when Hungary plays against Austria, I believe it's October 23rd, we're going to believe we're the best tackling team in Europe, because I'm going to tell our guys repeatedly that they are. Because if you don't tell them that, they're never going to believe it. Now, you've got to put in the work, because people will know if you're not telling the truth. But I tell them, I'm also going to tell them we're going to be the best conditioned team in Europe. Those are things that I can control. And we're going to run, and we're going to have fun running, as fun as you can have. I run, but I don't like it. I was an offensive lineman, and I'm 54 now. I run so my wife don't holler at me, I think. But, and that's what I tell the guys, and they all laugh. But we're going to be in great shape, and they're going to believe when we play Austria that we're in better shape. And then one more thing I want to make sure I say about that, about Austria, and then we play France second. I told the coaches that are with me, and I'm going to tell the players too, if they don't think they can beat Austria, they don't think they can beat France, and they don't need to come. I had the opportunity the day that I got offered the job to be the national team head coach. I also got offered a job to be the head coach of a junior college in Minnesota, where I was the offensive coordinator at last year. And to me, my wife agreed. We felt like, and I feel like, being the head coach of the national team in Hungary is it is the biggest honor that I've ever received in my life. So it was easy for me to turn down that other job. Now, some days I think, what in the world was I doing? But that's just the way I am. I think that's a huge honor, and to be able to represent somebody's country as an American, to represent Hungary is a tremendous honor for me. But as a Hungarian coach or football player, to be able to represent Hungary, I can't imagine a bigger honors to a football player or to a coach. So, but I'm going to make sure our guys, when they line up against Austria, now we may get beat 50-0, but I promise you we will be prepared to win. And the way we're going to do it is we're going to play great special teams. We're going to play great defense, and we're going to have the game close in the fourth quarter. And if it's close, those teams that think they should beat you really bad, they start to worry, and then I think we'll have a great chance. But I want to make sure I got that. I said that first, I think it's an honor, but also if guys don't think we can win those games, I don't need them out there. I just don't think that's I'd rather have guys out there that want to win and think they can. Another big thing with culture to me is communication. I think this is the key to success pretty much in anything. Is you have to be able to communicate with your players, with each other. My president, GM, with the national team head coach, people have to be able to communicate to me what they want for us to be successful. It's the same thing. I've got to be able to communicate with my players what I want from them. And I'll go over later with some things with communication. When players get inside the white lines of the field, and I stole this from Coach Bowd when he was at Florida State, they control everything. As coaches, it's tough because we want to be out there on the field with them, but we can't be. So you got to train them up. So I tell the players, when you're inside the white lines, it's on you then. Ain't nothing else I can do. But we've got to have trained the muscle memory and everything so the players know, so they're not in situations that they haven't been prepared for. And I think that's one of the better things that we do in coaching is prepare players for that kind of stuff. But also with that and establishing culture is when we have drills. So we'll have a pre-practice. And with that, it's just, like everybody everybody will have their own position group, and I can share I can attempt to share a practice plan with y'all too, and I can email it easier. But I want, when they get into the after stretches or anytime they're on the field, they've got to be running, and it can be a slow run, but there's no walking. I don't walk, I jog. Now, I ain't the fastest dude, but I jog everywhere. Because again, if I want that to be something that I want to have happen, then I don't think it's right for me to tell the players, you got to run, but I'm going to walk, and I'm going to end up at the drill, 2 minutes after you get there. And it becomes a little bit of a competition too between, I know with me and the players, is I'll try to beat them. And now when they try hard, they beat me bad. And it's, I tell them it's because I'm old. But it's just something I want that to be said. I want them to understand what I want. To have a championship culture, I believe players you have to have a player-centered approach. One of the things that we try to do, and we're doing this with the national team also, is we're going to have a leadership council. Now, right now, I think it's probably going to be all the assistant coaches and myself. It may just be myself and then a player from each position on the national team. And the reason why that is because I think players will talk to each other better. If there's a problem, I may not know them all, especially in a new country for me, and not being able to speak the language. But the language part of it is, people ask me in America how that is, and I tell them that it's easy because football is football everywhere. And people understand, people understand that how I am, and y'all will see if you come to practice, there hasn't been an issue, and the majority of my guys don't speak English, and I think we're pretty successful. One of the things, so the leadership council, what they would do is they would bring to me any issues that they see. Other players bring to them if the player doesn't feel comfortable coming to me. And it's helped a ton because I've gotten, a player's having a bad day, or especially with the guys now, maybe there's an issue with them and their wife, or them and their kids, or they've lost a job, or things like that. Player may not want to tell me that. They may be embarrassed. Well, other players do tell me that, and then I can help them out. And I'll go over those things in a couple of seconds. One of the things I would ask y'all too is, what are you doing for your players? What I think one of the things that we struggle with in Rome is we do a lot for our Italian coaches, but we don't do a lot for our Italian players. The cost to play is a lot. And then what they get is not a lot. If you can see the picture, their jerseys they had to buy. The pants I brought from America. A friend of mine was getting rid of pants, and they were brand new, and he gave them to me, and I brought them over with us. We'll bring helmets, things like that, because there are a lot of people in America who want to help see our game grow. So, but I think that T-shirts, a great way, and I wanted to make sure I said this too. You guys have great nicknames in Hungary of the teams. There's a team called the Gorillas. It's everything. I love it. But I would have T-shirts on everybody, names. I see jerseys on people with players' names on it. Anything that you can have. It helps you also with your bottom line. Maybe give the players a T-shirt, a player of the week, a offensive player of the week. And I know it costs money, but I think it's just something that you have to do or figure out. And I know it's tough to find sponsors because it's not the main sport, but I would try every way I can. We're going to have for the national team, if we don't have people to do that, then I will do it, because I want people to identify with our team. I want them, and I'll show you later, I've got bands. We call them Livestrong bands, but they're the bands that people wear on their wrist, and we have we have "Let's Fly" as our slogan in Lazio because we're the Ducks. I haven't thought of one with Hungary yet for the national team, but I'm going to ask the players what they want, and we'll put it on a band, and everybody will wear that band, and that unifies the team together. T-shirts unify the team together. So a small expense like that, I think, can help out tremendously, and be a huge deal. And for every team, every program. I believe everybody's got to be pulling in the same way to get your culture where you want it to be. And for me, it doesn't matter what what you want as a culture. It's just you got to get to it. You've got to make that happen. And how you get there, I think you've got to get everybody pulling in the same way. And then what are you willing to do if they don't? If you got dudes on the team and they don't want to be part of that culture, do you let them come out? Do you not have them play? And I can tell you what I tell my guys is they just don't do it. They're not gonna play. And now I haven't had to not have guys play in Italy because I think if you're up front with them and say, these are the expectations, this is what you're gonna do and not do, they do it. Because they're adults, that's why I love coaching men instead of kids now, which is great. The biggest thing to me in any culture, though, that you have is the relationships that you build with the players. This is me. As I look at the pictures, I see that I look really old. This is Jim Herman. He's the guy he used to be with the Giants and Jets. He was with the Michigan Wolverines when they won a national championship as a defensive coordinator. So having Jim as a resource for us is a big deal. But the big thing with relationships is you've got to build them with the players. As a guy coming in from outside, the way that I did it is I reached out to everybody on the roster that I could find that had Facebook, and I reached out to them. I sent them things. I may have reached out to some of y'all. I sent, on Easter, I Google searched how to say Happy Easter in Hungarian and sent that. Anything like that, because they've got to see that you've got a little bit of interest in them. When I get there, they'll see that I've got a lot. I'm flying back to see 2 games this weekend, which I'll be able to see 4 Division I games. If y'all got games around Budapest, I'll come to yours too. I've got a lot. I've got 2 days, and then we're going to go back to America, and then we'll come back. But in that time when I come back, I've been told I'm not allowed to coach anything but in Hungary, anything but the national team. But I'd love to come and watch practice, or I'll help at practice. That's not coaching or giving one team an advantage or disadvantage. It may be a disadvantage. But I'm there for you guys. But you got to show the team that you're with that you care, and the people that you're with, the players, that you care. I think as adults, we've got to, and as kids too, you've got to give the players the respect they deserve, especially if that's what you want to get back. You've got to respect your players. It takes time to build that trust and that relationship with your players and your team. But as coaches, we have time on the field, to do that. And one of the best times for me is stretch lines. Everybody stretches before practice or at some point. Guys are getting dressed in Italy. They get dressed in the middle of the field. Even though we got locker rooms, they just get dressed in the field. Or they sit around, or me and probably 7, 8 guys, we get coffee, espresso before practice, which isn't the best thing, but it just gives me a chance to talk to them. And when I'm back in America, I text them. The same thing. I'll text the guys in Hungary just to see how they are, just to build that relationship with them. If players think that you care about them, they're going to play a lot harder for you as a coach than if they don't think you care about them. And for me, and you got to kind of watch. You don't want it to be fake. I retired a couple years ago. I was making a bunch of money as a head coach and athletic director in South Carolina. But my wife's mom and dad had passed away within that year. My mom passed away a year before. And I told my wife that it was great what we were doing, but my job was all the time, all day, every day. In Italy, my job's a lot, but it's nowhere near the same amount of time. And I wanted to retire early, which we did. I mean, we've been fortunate monetarily. So we are able to, I told my wife, let's retire while we still like each other. And we did, which is pretty cool. Another way I think you can build that team chemistry, that culture that we all want, is eat. Have meals, have the guys over to your house. And it's on another presentation I do, but I've got a picture of when I had my team over, and I do it by position. I'll have the D line over, the O line over, the DBs, receivers, linebackers with running backs. They come over and we eat my wife cooks. We're from the South, so she'll cook barbecue chicken, beans and potatoes, and they're really good. A lot of them ain't nobody in Italy and Rome from South Carolina, so it's good for them. And then I've been to a lot of players and coaches' house doing the same thing. Just that bond, I think, is a big deal. And when you're eating a meal is the easiest way to do it. And then also observe. We still are coaches, and you got to observe your guys. You got to watch them. They and especially guys that work all day. That's why I tell my guys all the time, heck, when you get to play a game, you might as well play as hard as you can, because the next day you got to go to work. And, you get to play one day, you got to work the next. So I'd have as much fun as I can. But just watch what they do. And lastly, I'd say trust. The players have to trust you. If you lie to players, they're going to know you're lying. They're going to know you're not telling the truth. And that trust can be, hey, you're going to start this week if you work hard. Guy works hard, he doesn't start. Things like that. A starter doesn't come. And that's one I struggle with, because here in Rome is the most southern, and we're not that far south, but we're in the middle of Italy, but we're the most southern 11-man football team in Italy. So we struggle to get some players. Like, it's easier if you live in Milan, because Milan, football is a lot more prevalent up in the northern Italy. So the players come there a lot more. Our guy, we brought in a couple from southern Italy, way south in Sicily, or in Catania actually, and they could only practice on Thursday and Friday. So I was told those guys were going to play. One of them couldn't play because he just wasn't as good. And I said, hey, I don't care if you're paying him or not. And they weren't. They're just paying for flights. He can't. He's not going to start over. And you can see this guy in the back. This guy is a doctor, and he did a great job for us. But they wanted to start over him, and he just wasn't good enough to do that. So I couldn't let that happen. And this guy, trust me, he'd run through the wall for me. So that dude and this one, I think that's what you have to have in the players. Okay, communication, I think is important for players to know their teammates. I think it's important for coaches to know their players. I had a coach. I don't think he'll coach me again, from Canada this year. We were about 3 weeks into practice, and he couldn't remember the players' names. I said, Coach, I don't care what you got to do, but you got to remember the dude's name. We can give them nicknames, whatever, but they gotta know that you care enough at least to know their name. You got to know, they got to be able to tell you, and you've got to know when something's good or bad. And then I told the coaches in Hungary, the national team guys that we've got so far, is I want to make sure that when I say something bad, that I'll say something bad to players, but I try to say something positive first, like, hey, that's a great first step, but you're not bringing your hands when you're blocking, or hey, that's a great job of getting downhill, but you got to go near foot, near hip, or you're going to miss a tackle. That's a big deal, I think, to players. I stole that from Dick Sheridan, who was at North Carolina State. Also, another thing that we do that I said that everybody's going to do, two things, is that if I'm a linebackers coach and a running back makes a great play, I want the linebackers coach to say, hey, that's a great play, Mateo, my running back. That's a great job. Now, he's never going to say, Mateo, that you did a bad job, because he's not that position coach. But I want guys on both sides of the football telling other guys on the team they did good. Also, at the end of every practice, everybody comes up, and a coach has to say somebody positive from their position group. Even if they didn't, you got to find something. And every day you can find something. Every day. Because every day I make them do it. And then lastly, I make them listen and repeat. Or I don't make them. The best way to communicate with anybody, I think, is to listen to them. And then when you're done listening to them, repeat what they said to you back to them. And that shows them that you listened. Another thing I should tell you all is that my wife's a psychologist. So a lot of these things are easier for me because she told me these are the things that you have to work on a long time ago. We've been married a long time. All right, I think this is the last thing about culture, is the other 10. And this is the hardest thing. And this is the hard thing about relationships, is I want players who care more about the other 10 players on the field with them than they do about themselves, about their stats. Obviously, you got to worry about yourself getting hurt. But, defensive linemen got to do their job for the linebackers to make the play. Defensive linemen got to do their job and put pressure on the quarterback for the DB to make that interception. If an offensive lineman don't do their job, then the running back don't make a play. And everybody's got to understand that they've got to care as much about each other as they do about themselves. That'll be the toughest thing, I think, on the national team, just because of the amount of time that we have together. But there's ways that I think that we can do it that I'll try. By that game when we play Austria on the 23rd, everybody, I assure you, will care much about the country and about each deal. Is one of my big things that I really, really try to harp on with the team. And everything I always think is when everybody's doing the same thing and everybody believes in the same way, and if everybody on the field together, all 11 cats are running around playing hard, playing physical, doing their job, and just excited about playing, because it's football and it's a game, and just be excited. And it's a pretty powerful thing. Now, you may not be as good as the other team, and they may beat you bad, but if your guys are doing as good as they can, if they're playing as hard as they can, doing what you ask them to do, like we got beat Saturday now, and it was to go to the playoffs. And my guys gave every ounce of effort they could give. There ain't nothing bad I can say about my Italians. Now, my imports say they need to do better, but they didn't. But my Italian guys gave me everything they have, and that's all I can ask. All right, with coaching, I think the big things like this is be yourself. And I want to go fast. I don't want to keep y'all too long because I messed up at the beginning. But be yourself. For me, and now I wear a hat. And when I don't, you see why. I shave my head because it's all gray hair. It's as white as those shirts. So, but when I'm coaching, I coach like my hair's on fire. It doesn't make that's the right way to do it. It just makes it that's the way I do it. And if somebody's not like that, then they've got to be themselves. It's just how I am. I hope y'all come to national team practice, because you'll see that. And I will be talking to somebody the entire time and trying to coach the entire time. When I get done with a 2-hour practice, I'm exhausted from just talking. And it takes a long time to get that practice ready. But I'm exhausted when we get done. But I love it. I think it's important as a coach, you got to be prepared all the time. Right now, and I can send you all this stuff too, I read something about football pretty much every day, or I'll read stuff about leadership and culture building every single day. And I love it just because, and I've been coaching a lot. I've been a national coach of the year in America, state coach of the year, region coach of the year, a lot of times, but I still believe I'm always worried about there's some dude out there who's going to be better than me, and I'm sure there are, but there aren't going to be people out there who are going to work harder than me, for sure. And I'm positive about that. We have an opportunity to show the behavior we want. So with that, I will get after officials, but what I figured out in Italy is none of them understand English anyway, so it don't matter. I can say kind of what I want, but if the players see me coming unglued in the game, they're going to come unglued. Assistant coaches are the same way, so that's something we talk about. I talk about with the assistant coaches is, this is what we can and can't do. And one of the things, we don't get after the officials. I try to make that person on my sideline, both of them, my best friend during a game. You'd be surprised how many more calls you get as a coach when you are nice to those people. Now I'll say that, and you'll see the game against Austria, and I'll lose my mind or something. But it's just the behavior that I want. Like if I want stuff put away, I've got to put the stuff away. If I want us to be the best tackling team, well, then we got to work on it. That's an opportunity for me to show that behavior. All right. This is last year. That's me. This is my oldest daughter. That's my granddaughter, my son-in-law, my wife. This is Matt Hazel. He played for us last year with the Ducks. He played for me as a kid. He played, I believe, 4 or 5 years. I think his 5 might have been 6 in the NFL. And then he came to Italy last year and played. I wish there was a way I could get Matt on the Hungarian national team. He's a great, great man and an unbelievable player. But I thought it was funny. My wife always thinks it's funny when, because I have coached predominantly African Americans my entire life. And the kids, like Matt's a kid to me. He's 32 though, I think, or 31. They all believe they're part of my family, and they are. And I think that too, because we've included them so much in everything we've done. And but we always thought that was funny. Matt, I said, hey, let's get the family together. Matt jumped right in the picture. I hope y'all can see this at the bottom. This is my email, danpippin@bellsouth.net. And I'll be happy to share anything. I'm going to stop sharing this right now. Okay. I apologize I talk so much. But if y'all have any questions, I can't tell you how much of an honor it is for me to be the Hungarian national team coach. It's a tremendous, and that's a true story. Now I got offered that job and the job with Rochester Community Technical College same day. And and now if you've ever been to Minnesota in the States, you'd know why, part of the reason why I turned it down. Because it's Minnesota, it's cold there. And I'm sure in Hungary it won't be cold when I'm there. So, but thank you.
I have a question, Coach, because
Yes, sir.
I think it could be a big difference to be a head coach of a national team and a head coach of a team. And what's your plan to, let's say, build a community of the players, because you can't meet every week, twice a week with the players. What's the plan?
Well, one of the things I've done is I've reached out pretty much to everybody that was on last year's roster through Facebook, through that social media platform. I went to a Wolves practice. I went to an Enthroners game, and then that was in early April. I came back in May, and I came back in May just to go sightseeing, to be honest with you, with my wife, and take a break from football. And then I'm going to a couple games on the weekend. And then I'll just keep reaching out to people. I've watched the games. Peter Horvath is my contact with the national team. or with the federation. I asked him to send me. What I've asked is, I need this. If there's players or coaches or anybody who wants to be involved in the national team, if I can watch their film, that way I can, get a better view of them and know who we're picking, because it's we have such a short time, like you said. The biggest thing for me, we try out, I think it's the first weekend in August. And then there's a camp after that. So I told Peter, I said, man, I've been to Budapest now twice. The food is amazing. Somebody in Budapest, because y'all cook meat like we do in America, kind of, has to have some kind of grill. And then we're going to grill out at the camps. And then we're going to grill out after every time we have practice. And again, that's the best way, I think, to meet everybody. And I don't want just the players to be there. I want their families to be there, because my wife's going to be there. My wife has been a coach's wife forever. So she understands. She works a crowd better than anybody. She does a great job of just making everybody. When I talked to the federation about the job, I said, my wife's a bigger part of off the field as I am on the field, because, everybody's going to feel like they're part of our family. That's going to take time.
Yeah.
I've got till we play Austria. So I talked to, one of the ideas I had is bring some guys in on Fridays and go out and eat with them before we have practice on Saturday. I don't have a job during the week, and I'm staying in Hungary. I'll probably go travel around and meet guys. It's not, my job is to coach football from August, and I don't know my contract. It's like August 2nd or something like that. From then until we play France, that's my job. So I'm going to meet people as much as I can, build that bond, because that's a huge deal. You're exactly right. That I'm worried about.
Thank
The
you,
X's and
Coach.
O's, I'm not that worried. The other part, and that's the biggest part to me. The hardest part too.
Yeah. Thank you for your answer. Question, guys?
Everybody's probably sleeping.
I don't think so.
No, we're not sleeping.
Hey, I had some of that, and I don't drink a lot, but I had some of that Palenka stuff that y'all drink. That stuff's rough on me now.
How do you like it?
It's rough. It's good. It's a lot like grappa in Italy.
Yep.
It's rough. It's rough. Yeah, it's rough. I wouldn't drink it before a game.
I have
You beat
another.
Austrian, I'll be drinking a whole lot of it.
Amen to that.
Yeah. I have another question, and the most important in Hungary, and I think not just in Hungary but in Europe. So this is not the main sport, as you told us, and as we know, and we have a lot of problems with find the right guys to the playing team, because if you have a lot of players who miss the practice or not join all of the practices, but more talented than the other ones, more good than the other ones, and you have a lot of guys who are on every practice, not so talented, but try everything they can do. So which would be your, let's say, start on the game? Which guy will be the starting 11 in the starting 11?
For me,
Yeah, for you.
what's been good in Italy is they were upfront with me and said they told me that was an issue, and I told the players when I came, and I came right before COVID started. Then we all went home, came back last year. I'm here now, and I told them that if you don't come to practice, fellas, you're not going to play. I don't know what they've done in the past. I don't care, but you're not going to play. And with that, though, I tell them also, now, if you've got to work, I totally understand that. Just text me that day that you're working, and all right, then that counts as a miss. And I can work with that. I live with that. It's the ones when they don't text me, then they don't play. I don't play them. I'm gonna play the guys that are there. And I think as a coach, if you're honest with people like that, then they respect that, and they're either gonna do it or they're not. If they don't do it, there has to be some kind of ramification. And from my guys all know they've got to text me that day. And it happened last year was when we could play games again. One of our starting tackles on defense didn't text me. He didn't play in the first quarter. And I only had to do it one time. Now the team president was pretty mad at me.
Mm-hmm.
But that was something that they asked me to do. And it was amazing how it stopped after that. Now, I will tell you, guys miss because of work. Now, they tell me they miss because of work. They could be not telling me the truth, but the guys, and this may be something that y'all have too, I may have more guys miss to study that are in university than we have for work. And that's the ones that bother me because, I mean, I've got a master's degree. I've got my starting center has two master's degrees from Columbia University, an Ivy League school in America. So, you know, kids can have time. I've heard that excuse forever, and it's the same exact thing I would tell them at home. You know, the teacher just didn't, or the professor just didn't assign that test tomorrow. They didn't tell you at 6 o'clock today, but you've got a test tomorrow. That don't happen. Nowhere in the world. So. Those are the ones that bug me, though. But that's a hard one. But I think if you're honest with people, you know, that's one of the things you got to, with management in Europe. That's one that I struggled with at the beginning because my team president did not like that. But fortunately, we won.
I can imagine. Thank you, coach.
We had another guy had a personal foul that was not there's some foul penalties that I'm an offensive lineman, so I'm an offensive lineman hold all the time. That's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Stupid penalties I can't take. So we took the guy out that made a stupid penalty. The president didn't like that. But then when I explained to him why we did it, the players backed me up on it because that's one of the rules the players made. It was nothing. It was easy. But that's why I think the culture is so important. You've got to have a player-led culture to help you make the rules. Because I can always say, hey, Lorenzo Scaparota helped me make this rule. It just isn't a Dan Pippin rule. So.
Thank you. Guys, do we have any other question to the coach?
Yeah, one. It could be an interesting question. So, do you make any punishment after games? For example, getting too much penalty yards because, for example, unsportsmanlike conduct and making a punishment on next practice, or just talk with that guy and what is your solution, for example, for these issues?
For me, I've changed a little bit on this one. Now, again, penalties at games. I was an offensive lineman. I held a lot. I played at 220 pounds, which is about 105, 10 kilos maybe. So as an offensive lineman in college football in 1986 through 90, that was not very big. So I had to do anything I could. Everybody knew that I would cut. I would do whatever I could to win because for me, I was on scholarship. My scholarship was going to get more if I did well. I knew that. My parents were poor. The only way I could go to school was through football. I did whatever I could to keep that scholarship. So it's a little bit different for me now. Penalties that are stupid penalties, guys fighting, stuff like that, I don't tolerate that. One of the problems we have in Italy, I will tell you this one, it bugs me, and we run for this at practice, is them arguing with officials. And that is just something I cannot stand. I've got to worry about, as my best player, his name's Jack. And he always wants to talk to the officials. And he's a great guy, but he runs more and he just runs. And I told him, this is what you're doing. and he's going to run and run and run, and he just runs because those are penalties I just can't. You know, if I've got to, and I tell him, if I've got to worry about you talking to an official or you talking to a player, I can't have that. So I run them. I run the bejesus, I don't know a good word, piss. I run the piss out of them. I mean, that's what, you know, with the national team, we're going to be in great shape. I told the guys, the coaches that we have already on the national team, you know, the players will have I don't want to say a common enemy, but they're going to understand we're running because Austria just is supposed to be so much better than we are. And we've got to find any little thing that we can find to make us better. That's it. We're going to be in great shape. We're going to run. But the thing, you know, they'll see me. I'll be out there running with them sometimes. Hopefully. But yes, that's a tough one, man. I struggle with that. As an athletic director in South Carolina, I've had to kick kids out of programs and things like that. It's a little bit different where I was at. So running we would run a lot.
Coach.
But I think that's all things that you can take care of, though, in your culture. Now, my guy name is Jack, and Jack knows what I want and don't want. And when he does it, then he knows he's got to run. He does it a lot less now than he had in the past because he gets tired of running. But he accepts it. I told him, this is what you're going to do. I don't care. He's an Armani model, so that joker can play, though. I wish he was Hungarian. He can play. But the guys that I see in Hungary now, defensive linemen, especially just big dudes. Offensive linemen, same way. Big guys that I see. And the football surprised me too. The level of football is pretty good, I think.
Any other question, guys? So if we don't have, thank you for your time, Coach, and thank you for the great presentation.
No, thank you all. And then if anybody has questions, please look me up on Facebook, or my email is on the presentation. I'll be happy to share anything. And then, because football to me is all about sharing. And then the community in Europe is so small of coaches that, I'm positive if you've coached long enough, there's people that we know that are the same.
Yeah.
Same people, for sure.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, guys. See you on the next clinic. See you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.